for 8 years on many radio shows, weekly on with Jimmy Laffey, or I've hosted, you name it, all over the place, talking about some of the things we're going to talk about tonight. But a little background on me, because I was driving down here and all these Jewish people in my life fled through my brain. I'm so very, very thankful for so many of the Jewish people who brought me up. Norman Oradenker, who was my key advisor when I became the mayor. Paul Zissison, who gave me the book Free to Choose in 1979, 1980. There was a TV show, if no one's watched it, of course, Milton Friedman being a Jew. It's a very famous show that my kids watch, the tapes on Free to Choose from Milton Friedman. But Norman Oradenker and Paul Zissison were my two premier advisors as I am the mayor. And in my book, Primary Mistake, I was the mayor of Cranston, but I ran for the U.S. Senate. And in 2006, there were two very big primaries. There was one in Connecticut where Lieberman lost the primary but won the election. And there was a Lincoln Chafee, Steve Laffey primary. I'm Laffey. I lost, and I remain, according to Craig Shirley, the only elected Republican from Abraham Lincoln on to ever be attacked running for higher office by the Republican Party. They spent many, many millions of dollars to keep me from becoming a U.S. Senator, helping to elect now Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, as Lincoln Chafee was never going to win. And in fact, in 2006, they spent millions of dollars disaffiliating Democrats in what is now a Colorado-type state, a quasi-open primary. Ridiculous, foolish. How the former chairman of the Republican Party allowed this to happen. I've had my speaking about this a lot on the radio. I don't get to go vote. I don't get to go golf at Augusta National Golf Club. I'm not a member. And for people to come into Republican primaries who are not members is ludicrous and very, very damaging for the Republican Party, as it was damaging for me and cost me an election. So, but a couple of funny stories. One, between Zissison and Oradenker in my campaign, there's a lady who sends in an email and she wants to work on the campaign. It's a very big race, millions of dollars spent. It's the most expensive race in Rhode Island's history by far. Her name is Nahama Soloveychuk. And she says she wants to take out, so I don't know how to say her name. I write about it on page 60, 61 of this book. I don't know how to say her name. But as soon as I say Soloveychuk, to anybody around me, they're like, Soloveychuk, we're going to get Soloveychuk. We're going to get all my friends. It's a very famous Jewish name. And this lady is from the very famous family. And so we hire her and so forth, and she's unbelievable, wonderful lady. She just had a baby. She's a great, great lady. Works day and night, except for Friday night to Saturday night. She works day and night on the campaign. And so there's another Jewish guy named Charlie Bask who absolutely hates me, just absolutely hates me. He's a reporter for the Providence Journal. Every time trying to get me. Norman Oradenker has been his camp counselor at a Jewish camp. So imagine I spend 40 minutes explaining how to balance the budget to all the reporters, the radio. New York Times is there for this 40-minute presentation on balancing the budget. Charlie Bass, the lead reporter for the Providence Journal, gets up and says to me, Mayor Laffey, why do you have so many Jews on your campaign? Verbatim. Norman Oradenker, 6'2" guy, I grew up in his house. I grew up in Norman Oradenker's house. He's a big-time Democratic operative, head of the largest law firm in Rhode Island. I was a poor kid. He had the nicest home. His oldest son is still one of my greatest friends. He starts swearing at him in front of the conference. You blah, 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 Charlie, blah, 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 shut the blah, blah, blah up. It was the most unbelievable scene. And so I think of all these things as I'm coming down here. And it's really been incredible. If you ever want to go to stevelaffey.com, we're not going to talk about Israel tonight. You won't find anybody strong in Israel. See my 1-hour show on Ariel Sharon, a dedication to Ariel Sharon. See the 3 minutes. I have 1 minute, 3 minute, and 1 hour TV shows about many topics. Some we'll cover tonight. So I happened to get here about 9 years ago after I was the mayor and decided not to run. I'd written the book. A lot of people wanted me to run for governor of Rhode Island. I was telling the people at the table. I gave a talk. And I basically told people, had it on my gut, you really only want me if you have a real financial crisis and you want to fix it. And Rhode Island is a total, complete disaster. I had gone home and fixed the second largest city from bankruptcy. And in Rhode Island, it was run by a 9-0 Democratic city council. Could have been Republicans in Rhode Island for all it mattered. and a Democratic mayor who overspent by $24 million over a couple of years, never told anybody. The bond rating was the lowest in America. There was 27 days till we defaulted on our debt. The theory was it was going to bring down the whole state of Rhode Island. And much what Donald Trump is acting finally today on the wall, I basically said, here's what we're going to do. And I had to go visit the Speaker of the House, who I played basketball against, a Democrat. There's only like 6 or 7 elected Republicans in Rhode Island, the State House. I mean, you think there's a bad right here in Colorado. We're talking like 6 or 7 out of like 78. So so I had to go in and tell him exactly what I was going to do, mean it, and do it. And we turned the city around. And kept Rhode Island from being brought down also. So when I left office, you're sitting in front of the only guy you could find that had a 500% increase in the pension plan. The left was cutting taxes when I left office. Fought with all the unions. Was on TV a lot. I was on TV an awful lot, and sometimes national TV, just because, no one was doing what we're doing. No one would stop and fight. A man wanted to put a menorah, 8-foot wide menorah, in front of City Hall. I put it up. Then another guy wanted to put up a Christian manger scene. I put it up. My best friend, I have 2 roommates from college. One, Jonathan Newman, comes from a very prominent Jewish family in Philadelphia. Sandra Newman, his mother, is the first elected Supreme Court justice and basically runs the state of Pennsylvania Republican Party. And my other friend, Tom Marcel, my other roommate, is a Supreme Court winning lawyer, and he told me how to do it. And we won. And the ACLU took us on. Someone was totally upset about the manger scene, didn't like the menorah, was okay with the elf and the Santa Claus, I suppose. And we fought for years. We fought for years on this topic because we wouldn't back down an inch. We were not going to take it down. We were not going to take either of them down. And because my Supreme Court winning, very talented lawyer took on the case pro bono, we won. We won at every level. We took on the ACLU and we won. All these things can be done. There doesn't need to be anybody on street corners hanging out. It's only because people kowtow to all this stuff all the time. No one hung out on a street corner and pranced around. No one put a sign on, "We buy cheap houses." No one did that. We took them all down. People who had molested children were let out. They didn't last in my city but 2 weeks. It wasn't exactly a Rambo 2 situation, but it was sort of like that. Like I hate to say it, but they weren't going to live in my city. So I've been focused on a number of things and making moves. Was what I actually was when you sent out this "You Are Not Alone." Louis Free, a Jewish broadcaster, Jewish friend of mine, who actually read my book Primary Mistake, and we're close personal friends, out of Youngstown, Ohio. He coined the "You Are Not Alone" when I was talking to him doing the movie, and I used it in my movie because this is the real thing, folks. Why do you think when the economy is growing at 4%, the majority of Americans think we're heading in the wrong direction? Did that happen in 1968? No. Did it happen in 54? No. We know we're going in the wrong direction. Why? Why do the people in this room know? You know because most of you have children. Why are we here? I'm not here I got 6 kids. I'm here because my father tried to make sure I had a better life than him. I try to make sure my kids have a better life than I do in this great country we call America. And we know it's absolutely not happening. Some things people in this room would know that people just don't know. I mean, you don't think about it, but you know. You pretty much must know that there is not an economic textbook that says you would run a $767 billion deficit as the economy grew at 3+%. There isn't a Marxist one. There's not a Keynesian one. Read the general theory. It talks about a lot of things. Read Adam Smith. Read Friedman. Read Schumpeter. Von Hayek. There isn't a textbook that even these crazy college professors have that says, oh yes, we should run a deficit this year, this September, of $1 trillion. As the economy is growing at 2+%, let's say. Zero textbook. But guess what? We do it. We do it all day long. Think about what really is important and then go work out at a club and have MSNBC, Fox News, God bless them, CNN. CNN only has a headline about Trump and Russia. It's been there for like 4 years. It's forever, right? Before he was president, there's one headline, but they don't have any. They have blind people disappearing in Bermuda, and God bless, we got to go find these people. I get it, but it's not really the news. Like we're not fixing problems that we know have to be fixed. And let me stop and give you some of these problems and how we fix them. There are like 7 or 8 really great things that have to be done. No one would argue that they have to be done. Like we have to balance the budget. What, $21 trillion? Really? Hey, but how many people really know that Social Security, on what we call a present value basis, discounting out to the future, what we are taking in taxes and what we say to people versus what we're going to pay out is a $33 trillion problem. If you watch the beginning of the movie, you'll see Larry Kotlikoff, a Jewish guy, a great friend of mine, who talks about this. He's in the movie. He's like one of the stars of the movie. Larry's one of the greatest guys I've ever met in my life. In fact, when we went to film the movie, I had to find somebody who had done real work on the fair tax, like econometrics work. I'm an economics major and so forth, and wanted to be the next Milton Friedman. I got waylaid into going to Harvard Business School, and I never looked back. But so he was the only guy, so I showed up at his house. He wasn't even there. The door was unlocked. We wandered in, got ready. He shows up like 20 minutes later. It was like the funniest thing. I didn't think you were going to steal anything, he says. So we've been great friends. And but as he says in the movie, what are you talking about? We're totally broke. Like, we're worse than Greece. It's just that we're so big and people want to, buy American dollars right now and all this kind of stuff, that we're the least dirty shirt in the box. So when you talk about problems, I just glanced, as I was glancing at the phone when I came up here, because I didn't bring any notes, I just glanced at the budget for this year. So does anybody know that the budget for this year is that we take in $3.3 trillion and spend $4.4 trillion? That's really the budget, even though, there's not really a budget. Like there hasn't been one in a long time. Like, do people know this? So if I was the president, we would have a budget, but let's just take a line item. Now, when you run a business, any business, what do you do every morning? You lie there in bed, you think about what could blow up this whole business. One, what's the real liability? What could happen? Who could slip and fall? What do I have to do to make sure it doesn't happen? When I was the mayor, I used to lie there. When I was the president of Morgan Keegan and chief operating officer, I can remember going to Alan Morgan, the CEO and president, and saying, hey, we got a problem in Birmingham. I'm heading to Birmingham. They got a branch down there that has 50% of the assets in 4 stocks, and you've never heard of the 4 stocks. We're going to get sued. We're going to lose a class action. Alabama's terrible. I'm going there to see a guy named Fred Smith. He's a wonderful man. He's going to call you and tell you to fire me after I leave. He's 65. I'm 35. This is what's going to happen. Are you going to back me up? He says, yes, I'll back you up. I go down there, and no uncertain terms, we fix the problem. 2, we get him out of it. We get out of the stocks. He calls Alan Morgan. I come back. He said, Fred called, said, you should be fired. I said, what'd you tell him? I said, you do whatever Steve Laffey says. And he did. The class action lawsuit came. We won. I was the star witness for one day. We lost nothing instead of $25 million. They never paid me enough, I told them. Anyway, wonderful, wonderful people. So when the other thing you do is you always look at the biggest line item, don't you? I mean, when I'm running a business, we go to the biggest line item, whether it's salaries, whether it's plant and equipment, you look at it and how do I change it? The biggest line item is Social Security. So here we are. Now, remember, during the debates, we can go through all these debates, I watched them all, it's like verbatim. The Democratic debate, which of course was totally hilarious. Does anybody remember Jim Webb showing up at one of the debates? Conservative Democrat. One debate, greatest line maybe of all the debates. This is the famous line that comes out of it is when they say, who really hates you the most? And Hillary Clinton says Republicans, right? Bad move, but she says it and they report it all the time. But Jim Webb says, now this is a John F. Kennedy Democrat who was in charge of the 600-ship Navy under Reagan. I was a young man. He's a war veteran. He's a tough guy. He's a novelist. He's been in the U.S. Senate. He only could last one term. He couldn't take it any longer. God bless him. He says, I think it was those Viet Cong people when I threw some hand grenades their way. Among the Democrats, now Republicans would have been, yeah! Democrats, complete silence. The guy gets like 1%, he's out of the race. So we have these problems. But nobody wanted to solve Social Security in that Democratic debate, not one person, and nobody effectively wanted to solve Social Security a little bit. Chris Christie talked about it a little bit. Donald Trump said he was never going to touch it and so forth. It's a terrible decisions for our children. Social Security can be fixed. Let me give you, there are a number of fixes. And the fix for the Democrats, of course, to raise the taxes forever, right? It'd be the largest marginal tax increase in the history of the United States of America since we started, which would have been the biggest, right? When we started the income tax. So you're not going to do that. You're going to throw the country into recession. That's what they say. The Republicans, what do they say? I don't know. In '83, Greenspan said he fixed it. Is it fixed? No, it's not fixed. The Republicans really haven't said it. This is the problem. I've been a registered Republican since I was like 18 years old. I've run as a Republican. I've won as a Republican. I've lost as a Republican. So I'm not the guy who joined the party 8 months ago. I've been a registered Republican for 30 plus years. But Social Security has to be presented to the American people just like this. And here's what I wanted to get at. Any problem you want to solve, somebody gets hurt. I want to be very serious with you. The only way I got elected, and maybe the only way I get elected again, was during a crisis so bad that I have one of these podiums. I stood on a chair on street corners. 1,500 people came to a debate in a city of 83,000 people. You can't get 1,500 people to go see the president come. That's how scared people were. And I said, you're not going to like anything I'm going to do. You won't like a single thing I'm going to do. Vote for me, Steve Laffey, because I didn't come all the way back to Cranston, Rhode Island to live in Detroit. That's what I said, and I won. I'm a financial expert, and here's exactly what we're going to do. And nobody's going to like it. That's what America needs today, except we're not in a crisis because people aren't paying attention. So Social Security, let's get right at it. How do you fix Social Security? One, we've got to get these $33 trillion of unfunded liabilities to go to zero. How do we do it? It's not that hard. But see, along the way, somebody, me, is going to get hurt. The person who's 85 years old is not going to get hurt. They already took out way more money than they put in. They're going to live to be actually not to 90, let's say. And we can't touch, we're not going to even deal with them. The 20-year-old kids are going to win, because what I'm about to tell you, they actually win. The people between 40 and 55, 65 lose. We lose. Let me tell you how it's done. We don't, by the way, don't get me started on 401ks that you can loan against, that people take out money out against. It was all designed to never do that, but they do. That's a whole other problem. But in Social Security, we don't need any brokers. I was a broker. I was an investment banker. We just need a worldwide basket of stocks. We can guarantee over 30, 40 years an economic return of zero. That's still better than Social Security. Way better, by the way. So why can't you turn 20 and why can't you pay into what we call Social Security, but you own it, right? We get married. We get divorced. You get half. I get half. Actuarially, we're just building up money. Maybe it's 10% of your income. But we all know one thing. We're not going to have a society where people are just on the streets. Social Security is not going away. If that's your solution, I'm not talking about one that's not going to happen. I'm talking about one we could do. Everybody starts doing this. Whatever you were going to get in Social Security at 35, they send you out a letter. Oh, that's right. They went so broke, they don't send the letters out anymore. Forgot about that. They don't send the letters out? They used to get a letter saying, if you retire today, you get $3,400. Have you noticed you haven't gotten them? They're so broke, they don't send them out. So we could put zeros in for the rest of the time, and whatever you're in, you get. So if you're 20, you've got a pretty good future, because you're going to get a much better deal. But if you're 56 like I am, you get a raw deal. I only have so many years to actuarially build up in the stock market, right? The market could go down, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm talking about a worldwide basket of stocks. It's really not that hard. You need one giant computer. So along the way, we put money in. Actually, this is Larry Kotlakoff's idea. He's a senior economic professor at Boston University. It's not hard, it's smart. So what happens? Over time, the actuarial numbers of the 33 trillion have to go to zero. Don't they? There's no lockbox. There's no faulty money. There's no treasury things. You've read these articles that are so confusing. The treasury really has the money. The treasury. No. It's all been spent. Even when Clinton ran a surplus in 1996, whatever it was, the $400 billion of Social Security was included in that. It should have been put away. It wasn't. So we can do this. And over time, what happens when you turn 60? We'll make up a number. It could be 63. You turn 63, what do we do for you? All of us turn 63 in this room together. Next year, 10% goes into buying annuities. 10 more percent. By the time you're 73 or say 70, it's one giant annuity. We're all in it together. It doesn't run out. We live till we all die. That's it. There's a solution. Is it a market-based solution? It has to be. I wrote a paper in 1983 at Bowdoin College about this. In 1983, I wrote this paper. I still have it. I was correct. Any 30, 40-year period of the stock market and real estate and blah, 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 and bonds, and all this stuff diversified, including other countries, everybody would be way better off. The problem in America is that nobody will propose a solution where anybody gets hurt. Think about it. You don't even notice this when it happens, right? And by the way, no one uses the word fix. You know why people don't use the word fix and I use the word fix? When you fix a carburetor in a car, does it run properly? It does. Of course, you got hurt because you had to pay some money to do it. But fix is a different word than save. Fix is a different word than let's all get together and propose solutions. Fix is a word that the average dude walking down the street knows. And so if we can fix Social Security by doing just what I said. Remember, again, you get divorced. If you die, by the way, you keep it if you die before 60. Why not? Everybody else, a year old, is going into an annuity basket. Simple prospects. And so we're going to have one problem left. Sort of like we had, then instead of Medicare Part D under George Bush, we could have taken care of. We're going to have some really poor people who worked a long time and made very little money, who will never accumulate enough. That's going to happen. We're going to take care of them somehow. That's still way cheaper than $33 trillion. And if that number was there, the number in the budget I just quoted, $1.2 trillion this year, 1.285 to be exact. $1 trillion this year is going to Social Security. We take in when I say these numbers, you ought to be like, what? We take in $3.3 to make it without the zeros. And 1.2 is for Social Security? I take in $3, I spend 4.4. I take in 3. Is everybody getting what I'm saying? Does that make any sense at all? Should we continue to do this? Or should someone like Johnny Appleseed, or should someone go around the country and explain this to everybody? I went around the country making this movie. Watch the movie. Hundreds of thousands of people have watched this movie. I tried to be the right of center Michael Moore. It hasn't worked out quite yet because I don't really attack anybody. I'm not Dinesh, what is his name, Patel, who attacks everybody, right? I don't have a movie where Obama stinks. Obama does stink, but I don't have a movie about it. Nor am I making a movie about it. I make a movie about solutions. And so there's one solution. Let's go to another one. Go ahead.
I think part of the problem with solutions is that people tune into narrative, and that's what the left is very good at, is creating the narrative. So if there's a way to make the solution into a story, into a narrative, I think that's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. I could do 100 stories. It's right here, right? I have stories, how to fix it. I have funny stories that go along with it, right?
No, but I mean, like capturing, like appealing to the emotion,
Yeah.
Because people.
You know what's not in this movie? You know what's not in this movie? About 500 to 700 people don't make it into the movie. You can't make a movie interview 1,000. You can't make. Otherwise, it'd be a 25-hour movie. Make Dr. Zhivago look like a short, right? So every young person you see, everyone. I have the raw video. I could put it out for you. Everyone knows they're not getting Social Security. Everyone under the age of 35 that I see is not counting it. They don't believe they're going to get it. They know they're not going to get it. Every single person. How is it? Is that a good way to live? You get a paycheck, you know you're not going to benefit for it, or you're an employee, you pay it twice, right? And you look at it, you know you're not going to get it. And yet, is that anywhere in the Wall Street Journal in the last month? Did anybody run for Congress on fixing Social Security? Maybe David Bratt. Other than that, did anybody do that? To my knowledge, no. I mean, look at another problem. Let's student loans. It was in the paper today. 400,000 young people haven't bought a home supposedly because they have large student loans. All right, it's the Federal Reserve. But came out a couple hours ago. It's not even in the paper. It's just online. It'll be in the Wall Street Journal tomorrow. I read it. My wife. I didn't bring it with me. My wife sent it down to me. I was going to quote from it. But I can quote from now. It's 400,000 people. Have we done anything about student loans? Do you know the student loans are a 1.4 trillion? By the way, does everybody know there's 12 zeros after the trillion? Right? Do you know 12 zeros, right? Count them out. Go to my website, fixingamericamovie.com, and watch What's a Trillion. It's part of the movie, but I have like a 2-minute thing. He said, here's just so you all know, the year 0 AD to today, you lose $1 million a day in your business. You haven't lost $1 trillion. You're not even close. You're going to be like 27, 22 or something like that to lose $1 trillion. Losing $1 million a day. These are stunning statistics. But student loans is relatively easy. I mean, I have friends of mine, I have no idea how they do this. I live in Fort Collins. They can't even make you live on campus. I had a kid who graduated college and went to law school at 20. To me, college is a new high school, right? It's $8,000 a year because you live there. What if he had a specialized genius thing to go to Rhode Island School of Design? I would have sent him. By the grace of God, I could. But he was perfectly happy going there. What? A lot of my friends, they live nearby. They're like, oh, my son wants to go to Texas A&M. I'm like, what is he going to do there? Is he going to be an aerospace engineer? No, he just likes those hook 'em home, whatever the nickname is. The ad, right? You probably know what it is. He wants to go to North Carolina. He's out of state student. I'm like, it's like 50 grand. Well, we can borrow off the federal. What? Like, who are these parents? Why wouldn't you just write them a check? Why wouldn't you send them to CSU, which we've had a good experience with, relatively speaking, and at the end say, here's 65 grand. But nobody seemingly does this. Then the kid goes off and majors in sociology. We need another sociology up like I need a hole in the head, right? So why is it, by the way, is there any bill to stop this nonsense? There was no bill. The for-profit colleges, really? There were people who wanted me to be on these for-profit colleges board. There was one really nice man. I'm like, really? An MBA for a soldier overseas in marketing, MBA in marketing? I'm a Harvard MBA. Why don't we just get him a book? I could do it for free in a couple of discussions. The 7 Ps, the 4 M, whatever the hell. What are you talking about, charging people who overseas to go? So I never got involved in it. It was total nonsense. Total nonsense. So why don't we have a bill to start taking this down? I taught the top finance course at the University of Rhode Island for 3 years. They paid me $3,000 a semester. The other professors hated my guts. They didn't want to teach. They wanted to do research. The president of the University of Rhode Island, Robert Carruthers, saw me in 2001, and we engaged in a conversation, and he said to me, I have a real problem at the university, at the business school. I said, well, I hadn't been home in 20 years to Rhode Island, so what's the problem? He goes, most of the people in the business school side don't speak English well enough for the kids to understand them. I couldn't believe it. I went to Bowdoin College, a little college. I could understand all my professors, from Professor Shipman to Professor Goldstein. So I went to see Dean Mazie. I started teaching there, and you know what? I couldn't understand these guys. They were so into their research. They hated me because a lot of people like me could teach the top finance course. I had a life in finance. It wasn't very hard. No one ever asked me a question I couldn't understand. There are people like this walking around, and yet no one wants to ever hire them. Of course, I can't teach in a public school, right? I couldn't wander into a public school. Don't get me started on that for a second. So these student loans absolutely have to go in a different direction. Do we want to fund someone who does want to do astrophysics? My son's a graduate of Columbia University in computer science. He made a lot of money in his first year in school. Lots of demand for computer scientists. Zero for sociologists, anthropologists, American literature, blah, blah. We don't need to fund it. You can go do it. We don't need to fund it. People think it's free money. People's parents are signing off on these loans. And here's the graph. It's the largest loan we have. We absolutely have to at least start saying, for certain degrees in certain classes, we're not going to lend you any money. The cost of college would go precipitously down. Every time they give people the ability to get more money, the cost of college goes precipitously up. You get a bunch of people like me doing it for $3,000 a semester just for fun. Just for fun. I drove down to URI. I handpicked 15 top students. GPAs over 3.5. It was a world of fun for me to teach. It was like sitting right here with people like you. It's a lot of fun. There are other people who could do this. So there's another problem we have to solve. It's crazy. Take the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, think about what's really happened. In fact, something has really happened that has not really happened before. I don't want to go into the history of the Fed. I could do this all day long. I've given speeches about the history of the Fed. But let's just talk, start off 1987. The stock market crashes in October 1987. It's my first year at Payne Weber. I've just gotten out of business school, relatively speaking. I'm doing the letter A for the agency work. Great group of people around me. It was just amazing. Amazing to sit there through the crash, quite frankly, and look back on the ethics of people who had to clear trades at Payne Weber, Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs, and Bear Stearns, and so forth. On Saturday morning, just so you know, a bunch of people had to go in a room, including me, on the phone and clear all the out trades from Monday and Tuesday. Outtrade simply means you thought you bought 50,000 Apple computers from me. I thought I bought 50,000, which is a mistake. Back before the computers, we were calling to you on the phone. So the price is off by $10. It's $500,000 error. You take half, I take half. We just keep going all day long. I don't know if we can. I don't know if there are people around like this anymore. That's what we did all Saturday. The CEOs ordered it. We did it. We all lost a massive amount of money. We opened on Monday morning. Everybody was solid. But Alan Greenspan decided that on that weekend that he needed to flood it with money because there's going to be some recession. There was never a recession. It was dumb, and it worked a little bit. It's sort of like, if you don't raise your children right, you don't really notice a little bit at a time until one day they're like 16. They're like, whoa, I got a real problem. I never told Jimmy to clean the dishes or whatever, right? Well, along comes long-term capital. Mr. Scholes has won a Nobel Prize in economics. They've leveraged up some Russian trade 30-1. It goes broke. What do? They decide it's going to affect everybody. They call everybody in on a Saturday, say, we all got to put in some money here. Not as much money as the Great Recession of 2008-9, but they put in money. They say yes. So instead of the bankers saying, no, we're not doing that. Scholes goes broke. No one was ever going to go broke. I can tell you about the Mexican stuff and all this kind of stuff. But head to 2008. Think about it. They took interest rates to zero. Do you remember the famous time when Bush is up here and Secretary Paulson is like this next to him? And it's clear that Paulson knows what's going on and knows this is totally wrong, but he's going to do it anyway? About this TARP program and cash for clients, the whole thing. The Federal Reserve balance sheet goes from a normal $400 billion to about $4.5 trillion. That's their balance sheet. They buy 2/3 of the 30-year bonds over the next several years. So let's fast forward to now. That was a disaster. Never should have happened. People should be arrested. People should be in jail. It was never designed to do this. All along the way, if you unfortunately turned on CNBC, you would hear Fed governor after Fed governors talking it, and I swear, bullet in these Fed governors say it's normal. And I keep saying as I'm working out, if it's never happened before, is it normal? No, of course it's not normal. They just tell you that. In August, they try to wind down this thing and unwind it a little bit. They've got to get rates back up to somewhat normal, and here's the real problem. I want to make sure you understand these numbers. Because rates have been so low and we've increased our deficit, if you look at those line items on our federal budget, roughly speaking, $300 billion is the interest on the debt. Now, for some companies, taking $3.3 trillion, don't worry about how much we're spending it for a second, and 10% is the interest cost. Some people would say, that's not a line item I'm going to focus on tomorrow morning. Here's the problem. Two problems. One, what do you think the average borrowing cost of the last 35 years for the American government? Answer, 6. Not 2, 6. Second question, we have what we call the duration of the bonds. People probably know there are literally one-day bills and then 10-year notes and then 30-year bonds, right? So we issue out between 1 month, it's called 1 month and 30 years. If I walk down the street, and I did, across the country, making a movie, almost everybody says, when I say, what's the average duration of the bonds? Everybody says 15 years. The answer is 6. So now the U.S. government is under what we call the rollover risk. And the rollover risk is simply what Chesapeake Energy and the oil sector is going to face next year, right? All your bonds come due in 1 year, you can't pay, you go broke. America's rollover risk is being seen now. We're rolling over much more debt. When we should have been issuing long, we issued short, right? We did. Why did we issue so? Because no one's really going to buy a 30-year bond. Which person in this room says, you know what, that's great. The 30-year bond today is, I think it's 3.05 today. If I get 3.05% for 30 years, yeah, I'll do that. I'll go to the beach, I'll never look back. You know that's a bad investment. Just like in 1980 when it was 18%, you probably knew it was a good investment, right? Everybody was scared, right? The 30-year bond yield, or 10-year bond yield, 18%. Yes, but we're never going to do that. So we can't reduce the balance sheet. If, now I just told you about the deficit. If rates ever went back to normal, even though they're trying to get them back to normal, they're calling it 3% as normal, they're going to go back to 6. How do we pay the interest on the debt? Just for a number to be really rough, what's 5% of 20 trillion? It's not really 20, by the way. We borrow among each other. But roughly speaking, in a couple of years, what will it be? It won't be $300 billion of interest cost. It'll be north of $1 trillion. Where does that $700 billion come from? The $700 billion of extra interest cost. Once again, where does it come from? Here's the answer. It doesn't. This is the game of musical chairs you played when you were a kid that politicians play all day long. Because at some point, someone gets stuck without a chair, right? It's exactly what's going to happen to America. How does Donald Trump not know this? I mean, Rand Paul, I think, knows this. He speaks about it a little bit. But nobody's hair is on fire at the top of the Capitol talking about this. They're talking about, as you watch the news, something else. This is the real risk in the death cycle of a country, of a company, of a state that we are faced with now. How do we solve it? We can't solve this problem without people getting hurt. But the Federal Reserve problem is much deeper. If you were to go back and read the minutes of the 2008, read every month of 2008, which I did. No one should do this, by the way. Just take my word. This is really boring. You will find that the people who run the Federal Reserve are sitting right here, 13 people, whatever it is, 7 voters. They know no more than you. They make comments about General Motors. They think the economy's doing well. They're worried about something that never materializes. It's right here. Same people. They don't know anything more than you. People think that every day on CNBC, every day on Fox News, every day in the Wall Street Journal, Federal Reserve Board governor changed the language slightly. You want to punch him in the face, right? The Federal Reserve Board has this one problem that started in the 60s. You took it in 8th grade algebra. How do you solve 2 equations with 3 unknowns? The answer, you don't. You need 3 equations. So how does the Fed solve inflation, unemployment, foreign policy, blah, blah, blah? It can't. The Fed should first be changed up. And think about this. Paul Volcker's new book, if you haven't read it, is a great book. He probably wrote just before he passed away. I've been saying this for years. In his book, he says the exact same things, so you know I'm not crazy. He says targeting 2% inflation is basically the stupidest thing he's ever heard of. There is no technical, there is no economic, there's no justification for ever targeting anything but 0. Now remember, he took over when it was like 18, took it down to like 6 or 5 or 4, did a great job. Only guy who did a great job, by the way. Why can't the Fed just, if I ran the Fed, and I can never run the Fed, they will never let me run the Fed, because if I ran the Fed, here's how the meeting would go. You get in front of Congress. Some guy asks the 10-minute question that has no question, right? You've seen this, right? And I would, before you finish, I'd say, let me just tell you all something. I don't know what you guys are supposed to be, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. MV, money supply times the velocity, equals PQ, another way for saying GDP, nominal GDP. So there's a tautology, it equals. I'm going to make sure that the money supply, and watch the velocity, it's hard to do, it makes inflation 0. You guys are in charge of the rest of this. Why are you putting it off on the Fed? Why haven't you passed laws about balancing the budget? Why haven't you cut back on the welfare spending? Why again are people getting food stamps and buying chocolate bars? What is going on with you people? By the way, the pain would be really bad. But if the Fed just targeted one thing, that would be the beginning of the solution. Inflation should always be 0. The thought process that 2% inflation is the target, do you know that you lose over 35 years half the value of your money? It's called the law of 70. If you take small numbers, you just take 70 and divide by the 2 they want, you get 35. You lose half the value of your money in 35 years. Is that okay with you? Of course it's not. So the Fed has to be fixed. Unfortunately, and God bless Donald Trump, but he appointed people that he's complaining about. He had no thought process, no hiring, whether it was Sessions or these other guys, of thought process of what do I want to do? No philosophy was always a danger of Donald Trump. Some great things about judges and deregulation, but no thought process of like, what do I stand for? What have I been saying for 35 years? I've been saying this for 20 some odd years. And I know I'm right. So we have to fix the Fed. And that's how you stop fixing the Fed. You make them in charge of one thing. Why? It makes everybody else do something else. It makes Congress actually go back to the drawing board. Would there be a lot of pain short term? Hell yes. That speech I gave to Congress, for short term things would implode. But let me ask you all this. Stock market's down 20% from its high. Conagra was 30 and it's 20. I could name, I do stocks all day long. BOX, I know all the symbols, all right? I do this is what I did for a living. Who the hell cares? I don't care. I could have shorted it, I could buy it. Why is that? Think about it. Why is everybody now focused on the market? There's op-eds in the Wall Street Journal. They should only focus on the market. Really? No. Everybody should focus on the future of their children and the next generation. And that's why we're the worst generation. Myself and the people older than me, we are the worst generation. We allowed this to happen. It's happened. I don't know why our children or your children who are in their 20s don't come up and say, Dad, Mom, why'd you screw me so bad? Why you leave? Forget about this. I'm not talking about pollution. I'm not talking about CO2 emissions. I'm talking about money in the bank. Why did you leave it like this for me? That's the intergenerational war that should be happening, except we got a bunch of people in the public schools who have no idea what I'm talking about. They simply have no idea what I'm talking about. Take education. I have 6 children. I've already told you, I've been an educator, right? I've educated them in private schools, Catholic schools, homeschool, Montessori school. I mean, he's too young to remember, but there's like 6 different ways I've educated him. When I wasn't the mayor anymore, my book was coming out in 2007. I'd lost the Senate's rate. I had the book contract with Penguin Books. The book was finished, had to be edited a little bit. I said to my wife, you know, sweetie, for the last 12 years, we've done everything I wanted to do. She's from Mississippi. I moved her back to Rhode Island. I mean, she loved it up there, don't get me wrong. I said, what do you want to, I got till nothing, so I can't start a company. What do you want to do between now and September? What would you like to do? She said, I want to go to Ireland for about a month or 2. I said, okay, great. Not him, he wasn't even born. The other kids, I got up, I grabbed some math books, because I'm big on math, and I realized my kids didn't know math. 5th and 6th graders. They knew about math. Do you know that when I was taught from 8th grade up, every one of my teachers in the public school of a lower middle class area, every one of them were math majors. None of them, you go find none of them math majors. Very few. My pre-calculus calculus teacher in high school was a master's in math at Brown University. People did it as an avocation. Now look at Los Angeles and California, the strike they don't do it at all. Here's the problem. Why do we have a Department of Education again? It's supposed to be eliminated every time Republicans win. This is the hula hoop news of the world. The governor of Texas, Rick Perry, go to the front page of SteveLaffey.com. You can watch me introduce him in a thing called VoteToReduceDebt.com. He's a wonderful guy, funny guy. He knew me from Morgan Keegan and blah, blah, blah. We talked for 20 minutes. Couldn't be a nicer guy. He wanted to eliminate 3 departments, only 2, which he remembered. Totally get, remember? One of them was the Department of Energy. He's now the head of the Department of Energy. He hasn't eliminated it. And listen, I love it. He's a wonderful guy. He's a pretty, but this is what we can't put up with within our own party. When we put up with this, if you see some of my posts on Facebook, what happens now is we've gotten so split up, is that some of my childhood friends literally say, Steve, you're right, but you can't say that Democrats are worse. I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm done with the Democrat. I'm done. What are we talking about? We have to fix these problems. Social Security, healthcare. I will tell you this one thing. I actually have not heard this before, and I've said this in a speech about 2 months ago. We've got to fix healthcare, and I'll open up to questions. Is that okay? Let's just fix healthcare. I said before that no one will say this in America today. I swear to God. Except today, I'm working out at anyway, I have this, the sound's not on. Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan is actually speaking, and I won't listen to him. It's kind of boring, right? All of a sudden I see across the screen about China. Now, I speak a lot about China. I may even avoid the whole thing tonight. We got to fix this whole thing with China, and President Trump is only hitting at the very basic of it. But, so I turn on the volume. He's talking about China. Complete nonsense. The usual complete nonsense about China from Jamie Dimon and everybody else. Actually complimenting China because only 4 guys run the country, and right? You've heard this before. The Wall Street Journal's been saying this forever, right? They're better organized and blah, blah, blah. 5 or 10 years from now, they're going to have a problem. Like, I want to rip the TV off. Nothing about human rights. We're in front of a bunch of Jewish people, aren't I? Nothing about human rights. Nothing about the Uyghurs. Nothing about the Christians disappearing. Nothing about a communist country that will destroy everyone in this room if they get a chance. Will destroy your synagogues. Everyone, nothing about, just about how blah, 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 blah. They can turn on a dime faster than we can. So I'm like, oh, I'm so ticked. Then they talk to him about healthcare, and he actually says something I hadn't heard anybody ever say publicly, because no one wants to say it. Healthcare is 17% of GDP. Switzerland is 11. You've heard this stuff. Why can't we be like Switzerland? We should get this and that. Ever been to Switzerland? I've been there like, I don't know, 8 or 9 times. Ever see any real fat people in Switzerland? Ever see a guy 5'10", weighing 450 pounds? I don't mean to insult him, but you won't. Obesity, Jamie Dimon says, is 40% of healthcare costs. 17, 11, 40%, 0.6 times 7. It's basically that. So here's how we have to fix it. Well, it's not that we're against, I mean, people have taken wrong turns. People have drank too, people in life, we've all in this room been through, family members, ourselves, we've all screwed up somehow, right? But what we gotta do, because what do people really want? Get on a plane, come into Colorado, meet a lady who can't move from Virginia because she can't get health insurance when she gets here. She's got a very sick daughter. I was telling Lisa about my daughter has stage 4 neuroblastoma, has supposed to have been dead for 2 years. We lived through this tragedy of the children's hospital here. I've lived in Philadelphia for their children's hospital. I get it. I have another daughter with an even rarer thing who's totally fine now, absent seizures, that one beautiful doctor who I owe so much to is fixed, and now she's okay. 2 kids, 6 kids, 2 extremely rare unrelated diseases. I know all about healthcare. I've seen the bills. I've seen $7 million of bills, okay? So what do people want? They want, because of either bad genes or bad luck, they want to be insured. They pay their bills. They want to be insured. They don't want it to be a max of $1 billion. They know it can go over. They want to take it across state lines. We're the most mobile people in the world. I used to visit a money manager in Glasgow, Scotland. Bothwell Asset Management, an old textile pension firm, back when I first started out. They moved it down to London, and I said to him, hey, you're going down to London to live, I guess, because really nobody left in Glasgow doing this, right? Glasgow being the biggest shipping thing in the world through a really problem up until about 1980. Oh no, I can't do his accent. Oh no, he wasn't leaving. He wasn't ever leaving Glasgow. He wasn't leaving the town he was born in. Americans aren't like that, but we can't be mobile. We can't get across state lines. Republicans control both sides of the House again. Had a Republican president again. You can buy your Amica life insurance policy and drive anywhere you want. You get sick in Philadelphia like my wife did and passes out, you got to go to a certain doctor, this and that. It's crazy. Why can't we just fix that problem? If we said, get this, here's the program. We say, by December 31st, everybody's going to have to get insured. Maybe make it a year and a half from now. Make it whenever you want. Everybody's going to have to be in. And we're going to assign everybody a ratio of what they cost. And it's going to be okay for the first couple of years. Steve Laffey, 5'10", 172, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, been in perfect health basically for a long period of time. Mother's still alive at like nearly 90. Father died. Okay, you're a $600 a year guy. You, I'm not pointing at you, you're a very beautiful lady. You, over here, you're 50 years old, you weigh 400 pounds, you're drinking too much brew, blah, 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 blah. You're a $400,000 a year guy, actuarially. I mean, I'm not joking. You're a $400,000 a year guy. But okay, Jimmy, here's what we're going to do. We're assigning you to Blue Cross Anthem. They are in charge of making you a $200,000 person here 3 years from now. Here's what we have to do. Why are we not telling people that they're also responsible? How can it be that we live in a, again, back to the problem. Not a politician will tell you. We got a problem, and some people are going to hurt. You're not going to be drinking alcohol very much anymore. You've got to lose weight. You've got to do this. And guess what? What we have to do, don't bring up the death panels or whatever, but someone who turns 55 who hasn't listened to this for 3 years, they're not getting knee replacement. You carry 200 pounds every step extra. You're not getting a new knee. You're not getting a new liver. We gave you the warning. I mean, we can find literally people on the streets and assign them randomly to different insurance companies who then become responsible because they're only going to get reimbursed $400 grand for that guy, $10 for you, whatever it might be. Well, there's a partial solution. How about this one? Does anybody really understand the patent laws in this country? Nobody does. Nobody. Not even me. I'm joking. But I've been studying this for a long time. There's nothing more infuriating. Again, I know a lot more about this than my daughter's cancer, and my other daughters had a long-standing problem. I was at Yale, I was at Harvard. If it wasn't for the Colorado Children's Hospital, it would never have worked out. She's a beautiful young lady. She would have been here if it wasn't for midterm exams, which she finished up today. So we give people 17 years from the invention of the product, blah, blah, blah. We don't. On average, we give them like 25 years. Everybody finds a different use for it along the way. The patent lawyers go work for the patent office. The swamp is getting bigger, folks. I hate to tell you this. The swamp, all we need to really do is make sure that once it's produced, you can sell it for whatever price you deem, get money back. We've got to have a capitalist society for X years, say 9. The most famous one, I say this because people laugh a little bit, is Viagra, okay? You didn't laugh at all. All right, you'll have to live. So Viagra was supposed to go off patent in 2012. It went off like about 4 months ago. It was 6 more years. Why? There was some tiny little use that they figured they could use and blah, 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 and they got an extension. Happens with every drug. And then you put another law. That's great, but the U.S. consumer is not paying for everybody else in the world's drugs. If you sell that in Germany at $1,000 a dose and $10,000 in America, guess what? It's automatically $1,000 in America. We're not paying for their problem. We do. Do you know that we do today? The drugs are much cheaper everywhere else. Donald Trump's been talking about it, but we haven't passed a law about it. We've got to get. This is listen. There's several other things that we could do. Those are major things. I just took healthcare costs down like 50%. Would anybody want? Now look at it. By the way, think about this. The average family of 4 in Colorado or America makes $65,000. The premiums. Now, Obamacare is far worse, a disaster. It's all there. We go all day long. They want a single payer plan. They've already introduced it. That's why they did it. Right? People would, the guy said if people are stupid enough to believe these numbers, blah, 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 and they got it through. So we're going to have a single payer system in America if we don't stop this. And if we can't tell people on TV, another thing, by the way, there should be no drug ads on TV. I'm sorry. Like in 2007, that all changed. Do you all know that? Before 2007, there were no drug ads on TV. The disclaimers, which I know sound like everybody's going to die, go ask a doctor what happens. People walk in and say, give me the blue pill. I need that green pill. They don't even, people, and what do doctors do? Do you think doctors now say, hey, Jimmy, you're like 60 pounds overweight, you're really fat, you got to lose some weight? Nobody says that. My friends are doctors. They say they give them the pills. They don't want lawsuits. Think about what's really going on. Is anybody really looking out? This has to happen for our country because it brings us to the other problems. We have problems in campaign finance law. No one solved them. Wasn't McCain-Feingold going to solve all that problem with the Koch brothers and the Soros brothers? No, of course it didn't. It's like this walking news story. It's not going to solve it. When you ask people, why do you think half the people don't vote? I know why. I've traveled the country several times. I've literally gotten out of an RV hundreds of times, approached strangers on street corners, which you can watch in the movie, and I know. I've seen people at bazaars outside of Memphis, Tennessee, churches. We know. I know why. The average person in America can probably contribute $250 maybe a year to campaigns. He sees George Soros putting $60 million in the Koch, whatever. Both sides. You know what he says? What the hell can I do about it? People become disaffected. They feel like they don't belong. It's a problem we're going to have in the Republican Party if you become a chairperson. It's a problem. We're going to deal with it. It would be way better if we all decided that, you know what? By the way, it's not going to pass. Campaign people get elected, we don't have term limits. 75% of people want term limits, we don't have them. Think about that. A guy at Philadelphia, the University of Pennsylvania did a study about the things we really all agree upon, and we have none of it. One of them is term limits. We really agree that, sitting around for 40 years, like Mr. Byrd or John McCain, it really hadn't worked out too well. Worked out well for them, God rest their souls. Didn't work out too well for us. John Coyne, name these names. But we lionize it. 40 years of Ted Kennedy in the Senate. Really? After he killed the lady? 40 years of that? We lionize these people. If everybody had 2 terms and didn't get paid if you ran a deficit, we'd have a lot less people doing this. It should be absurd. But if everybody could contribute $5,000 a year, some people can understand. I made the number up. And you could give $5,000 to one city councilman in your city, or $1,000 checks to 5 different congressmen, or $5,000 to Donald Trump, or whatever it would be, and you were done. Believe me, people would feel like they could make a difference. How do I know this? In little old Cranston, Rhode Island, if I could get a barber to give me $10, at least I knew he kind of was in. But then the limits there were much lower, right? There was nobody doing this kind of stuff for a mayor's race, you know, that you'd see nationwide. So there's things that we just have to fix. These are just some of them. There's more. I probably should I stop? I probably should stop. I didn't even get to China. If you want to know about China, just go to my website. I mean, I've been talking about this for a long time, but we should not be trading with China at all. And again, no one's going to tell you that. I am wearing a shirt made by Todd Shelton, made in New York. My pants are the All American Clothing Company, online, 3230s. I've got a Filson belt on, made in Washington, D.C. My boots are made by the Double H, but they're made in America. And my socks are from Allen Edmonds, made in America. My car is an F-250. I'm going to be driving out of here. The tires, when I go get the tires, to get new tires, I just go online and get the letter next. Every tire, do you know this? There's a letter. B means Birmingham. It could be a Michelin, but it's made in Birmingham. If everybody walked out of here, and you go watch my videos on this, if you walked into the next store, and you do this one time, walk into a Walmart, walk into a furniture store, and walk in and say, let me ask you all a question. Where's the American made section? Let me tell you what'll happen. The lady there will go, one, she knows there should be one, and she knows there ain't one. So there's a look on her face. I do it all the time. Do I do it all the time? I do it every time I walk in. I walk in, my kids do it. Where's the American made section? They go looking for it sometimes. It's almost humorous. But we should all do this. What does China make that we don't make that we really need? Telephones and TVs probably. There's nothing we really need. Everything I buy, I start with America. If I can't find it, I go to Canada. Then I go to England. If I have to, I go to China. But I almost never have to. They make stuff we don't need. Where's the President of the United States? If I was the President, we'd be talking about just like this. If everybody got up and just wanted to do this, believe me, there's a production operation curve. When you build more stuff. Plants, let me just give you one last story. Nobody's opening a new steel mill. One of my great friends works at a high level at one of the biggest steel companies in the world, in America. It's a takeoff on Milton Friedman, who won a Nobel Prize on the permanent income hypothesis, okay? That people wouldn't change the way they did things unless they thought things permanently changed. Well, no business is building a steel mill. Why would they build a steel mill? The President of the United States, God bless him, says there's going to be tariffs on England. No, not on England. 10%, 25%. The President needs to make a speech to solve this problem with China and say, Canada are basically Americans. England is our ally. We're going to help them out with Brexit. Here's our steel plants among these real allies. Not talking about fake, real allies who have to fight with us. Not Turkey, obviously, right? They're not an ally. They're an enemy. Here's our allies. Here's the steel plants we need. This is the law we need. Not the one, the executive order here and there that doesn't outlast. 20-year tariffs on this or that so that we have a steel industry. We don't have a fabrication plant. When the Golden Gate Bridge got fixed, we in America don't have a fabrication plant large enough to handle it. Does anybody know this? That the fabrication plant was in China, and they shipped the steel stuff 6,000 miles by water. Do you think that's cheap? We don't even have one. For national defense purposes, the president should always and everywhere tell us this. And guess what? Almost all Americans would be like, okay, all right. But nobody knows. I'll leave you with that thought. Nobody really knows what I know and what you now know. We have to tell them. That's why I do this all the time. I thank you for your time. I'll answer any questions. I just gave you, there's more fixes that needed, but anyway.
So one of the big, oh, by the way. One of the big issues that is often faced when trying to get a solution implemented is getting an elected official who's in a position of power to be able to even present that bill. What kind of suggestions do you have for getting someone to get off the stick and actually do it?
People will present bills when the people of America demand them. And it starts with the president. Unfortunately, again, there's real problems that are going on in our country right now. And while some good things are happening, I don't get into the bashiness of that. I'm a Republican. I'll talk as judiciously as I can. But just for example, on the issue with China, no one in America is expanding their base in Youngstown, Ohio. Go see these buildings. Watch them in the movie. Go through Oklahoma. I know it's not a front-range problem, but But we need to tell, and I've offered to spend my time literally getting 10,000 people in front of people and start protesting to different various groups, like big steel companies. I've actually had proposals out there that to get people to listen, we're gonna have to go like to the people. And so anybody who appears before you, who might be running for office, like they need to understand, they're just gonna tell you things, how bad, I mean, people are gonna get up here in front of people like this and tell you how bad Democrats are. Do you need a speech like that? Don't invite them, don't do it. What are we gonna do to fix these problems? Always think, I mean, I have 6 kids, maybe somebody here has more, but I got, and they might, you know, but I'm saying, you know, when you have children, or even nieces, your general thought is, how do we make this better? We're losing that in America. There's a selfishness coming through. You see it on the highways, right? You see this road rage, you see these things that are happening. Why is anybody sending their kids to public schools? I hate to be so critical. I learned my lesson a long time ago. Why? What are they doing? Who's supporting this? These kids are coming out, they know nothing. My kids know something. Generally, there's 3 or 4 with me every time I do this. By osmosis, he must know something, right? By the way, bring kids. We were kids. Kids should always, in 1950s, you go to one of these things in Nebraska, there'd be kids sitting over here in Republican meetings. I go to Republican meetings, there are no kids. There are no 20-year-olds. Look at where's the 20? We got to get them here. I'm not trying to be critical, but that's who has to hear this. They have to hear it from you, they have to hear it from me, they have to hear it, because they're going to get banged every day by the stupidity of TV. I mean, my kids don't have cell phones. Are you joking? Would I ever let my kid, do you have a cell phone? I see kids are like, I mean, it's nuts. There's nothing good on the internet that they can't get from a book right now. When they get to be a certain age, my son Sam is 23, he has a backup iPhone. He can go get his own, he can do whatever he wants right now, but he doesn't need, we're losing these kids. And we're losing them in these issues, this issue with China. I mean, so you've got to do it. You've got to call these people. I call them. I've run. I'm down 500 grand on running for different things. Okay, I mean, I've done that. I wrote a book. I made a movie. I'll do it again. I can't sleep. We are not that far from this magical bad moment. Go look at it. When you go home tonight, go call up bond, get a graph of past 20 years of Greece. You think they had a problem in 2008 and it was like, oh, we have a problem with our debt. Oh, the rates are 2%. Oh, they're 2.25%. A year later, they're 3%. We better do something. No. You go ask a bunch of hedge fund managers who know everything I'm saying is true. Why? I trained a bunch of them at Morgan Keegan, the hedge fund managers, right? I chose another route to do this. I don't know why, but I did. Because I'm a good money manager. I ran all the money from Morgan Keegan. I just had it on my heart to do this. But you ask them. They only care about one thing. Being 5 minutes in front of the next guy. They know this is going to happen. The story of Portugal, the story of Greece when the rates went up was 2, 3, 10. It wasn't 2, 3, 10. And America's story of the future will be 2, 3, at one point. I know you can't think it can possibly happen. And it could be. Again, I'm not Peter Schiff. I don't say gold's going at 5,000 tomorrow. It's ludicrous what people say. And they come back and say, I never say stuff like that. I never comment on the stock market as far as up or down. I have my own opinions. I could change them tomorrow and you won't be there. I learned my lesson a long time ago about that. But this is a mathematical certainty. So we have to go back to Cory Gardner. We have to go find Congressman Buck. We have to tell the head of the Republican Party, this is what we want. And we will stand for nothing else. And educate your children. And when you see kids, tell them. I pass out movies. Why? I pass out movies. Hopefully, you'll give them to somebody to watch. There's people who like the movie so much, have bought thousands at a time. Like, I need several thousand. I'm traveling the country, one guy. I said, several thousand? Yeah, I'm just going to start throwing them out the window if I have to. Anyway, I don't know what he did or not, throw them out the window. A rich billionaire bought thousands one time. Just thousands. He's like, have you seen this? How do we get people to watch this? So, and again, when you see the debt clock, you realize that it was made several years ago. If you didn't see the debt clock, you wouldn't know. But watch the people in the movie. They care about America. They still love America. We know, again, back to the original point, the one thing we got going for us, people know we're in the wrong direction as the economy is relatively strong. Go ahead, ma'am.
You mentioned that we had a rash
Yeah, in 7.
Did you get to read the redacted ones or the ones that had been blacked
No,
out?
I don't remember it being blacked out. They unredacted them at the time.
That you didn't get to read all of them?
Yeah, I probably didn't get to read all of them. But the comments are just so, when you read them now, you realize they didn't know they were talking about a strong economy. This is going to happen. Just like today. Think about it. People, oh, the economy is very strong. Well, how is that helpful? Today the economy is very strong. How is that helpful? It's not helpful to me at all. I got to look to the future. But my major point, if you glance through any of the Fed minutes and then pick a time just before a crack, you'll find that 13 people in the room, not one of them said, hey, there's a real problem with these banks. And here's what we got to do. By the way, the bank problem is a totally different problem. Just a very simple thing. The Republicans should get up and be like Teddy Roosevelt was and say, listen, you mean to tell me that 6 banks had 35% of 6 banks? Nobody went to jail? By the way, nobody went to jail. Everybody just pays a fine. And those same 6 banks have 70% of the deposits of the American, and we're safer? Does that make sense to anybody? Obviously, that's not true. No bank should be more than 1/2 of 1%. Bring back Bank of New England. I know what the banks were called here. Bank of New England, Fleet National Bank. If there's one, listen, if you start slicing semiconductors like LEDs, let's say, the bigger you can make them, you can get 10 times more efficiency. Cree Research, CRE is a symbol. You can look that up. But that you do. Once a bank literally gets beyond, hey, you know what? Just take a Bank of Mississippi. You and I run the Bank of Mississippi, and your son comes in. The best loan you can make is that, Jimmy's son, he's a hardworking guy. Yeah, he went to Ole Miss. What does he want to do, buy that land? Yeah, you know what? He's good for it. That's a good loan.
That's why they got rid of the savings loans. And Colorado didn't buy.
Right? But
Silverado.
there are no economies. We know for a fact that banks over a certain size produce no economies of scale. The return on assets are lower. They may be bigger in assets. The return on assets, the ratios are lower. Absolutely. Why doesn't Trump break them up? He'd be a hero. When they announced that FDI insurance went from $125,000 to $250,000, I was in Mississippi, my mother-in-law's house. I was going down Pleasant View, and I heard it on the radio. I looked to my left, and I looked to my right, and I thought, I can drive 25 miles, and there won't be one person who has $125,000 in any bank. They did it for a con job. Nobody cared.
But that's all the federal government, no matter how many accounts you have, is liable for one amount.
No, well, now it's $250, and you could get $750 at one bank. I could have $250. I was married to you. You can have $250. We can have a joint account for $250. But that's not my point. The point was to make things sound safer. They made that announcement. Nobody was safer. Nobody cared. What do you think? Jamie Dimon keeps $60 million at one savings and loan? Of course not. It's ludicrous. But that's what they announced, so people would be, oh wow, we're going to be safer. It was stupid. We're not safer. We're way worse off. You want me to keep going? Go ahead. I'm sorry. I could keep you here all night. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's fine. I wanted to get piggyback on a lot of things you said, in the sense of, as someone that had been, let's say, growing up with a very sick grandmother and now a very sick mom, I have an understanding what it is to have a dose of reality. I am more like the older generation because I know how hard things get. I know that sometimes you have to make very difficult choices.
Right. Go ahead. Give me a question.
So, I'm gonna give you just one second before that. So, like, most people my age have never been in a position where they've had to watch a family member say that the best option we have right now, the one that's left, is an operation to remove skin pain. So, sometimes life is very difficult. Sometimes you have to make very difficult choices, very painful ones, because that is what is necessary. Most other people are more likely to stick their hand in the can and wait till it's not their turn.
Well, I will tell you this. I will tell you this, that yes. Yes, that's the problem. The problem is this message that I just gave to you will play way better when people are panicked. Because people know this to be true. When I say this, you're not going to have a guy in here next month, or a lady says, Laffey's totally wrong. That Federal Reserve, they're doing a good job. In fact, when they thought it up in 1913, they said there would never be any more recessions, and they flattened out the business cycle, and they're going to produce a graph where the business cycle got flattened out. Crash of 29, depression of... They're not going to produce one. We're worse off with the Federal Reserve. It helps nothing, but anyway, I got to stop. But let me stop. I'll stay here as long as anybody wants to talk for a while, and hopefully they haven't closed the deli, so I can.
Right.
Did you ever get a card? They never gave you one? No. Okay, never mind, we'll get you some. They never gave me any food. All right, that's okay. We'll get it on the way out. Anyway, I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you go to my website, we didn't talk about it at all. You'll see my real strong stance on on Israel, on Italy. Really strong on Italy. On Israel, I mean, I still am stung by giving up the Gaza Strip. That's where I am, by the way. I just don't even want to get into it. I'm still ticked off about the Gaza Strip. But anyway, let's not talk about it now. Thank you all for coming, and I'll stay up here. Anybody, people might have some questions. And I do have one book, and I'm gonna give you. Have you read the book? I'm gonna give you my book here. Here, go ahead. But the book you can still get. Anyway,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Wow.